Today we have Spencer Chamberlain, and you might know Spencer from Underoath, but he's got a new project called Slow Tide that you absolutely need to check out. It's so good. Cullen and I have been digging it for a little while, and we're super, super stoked to chat more about Slow Tide. But Spencer, I've got an apology to make, all right?
Both of us
And I'm
do,
glad that
actually.
Cullen reminded me about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in 2012, so over a decade ago, you guys, Under Oath, played at Sunshine, the Sunshine Music Festival. It was like in Wilmer, Minnesota, like this little tiny town in
Oh
Minnesota.
God.
Okay, and you guys, this might sound a little creepy, but you guys stayed at a hotel. Do you remember what? Do you happen to know what hotel it was, Cullen?
Probably a Holiday Inn or
Like
something
some
like
sort
that.
of some sort of hotel. The reason why we know this, okay, is there was a night that we came back after watching you guys play. We came back to our hotel, and Cullen and I were watching it was like a sketch comedy show on TV called The Whitest Kids You Know. And Cullen and I
Okay.
were watching like YouTube clips of this, and we were watching one of their sketches, and we like at 2 a.m. at night watching one of these sketches, burst out laughing, freaking out, and like loud enough where we probably had to have woken up like everybody on our floor on the hotel. Okay. The next morning, I have to like I went up to like the front desk or something. And by the way, we were like 16 or 17 at this time, like we were still
Yeah.
in high school. Uh,
Wow.
we go to the hotel desk, and I'm coming back, and all of a sudden, I see you coming out of like the hotel bathroom or something, and you're walking down the hallway next to me, and I'm like, that's fucking Spencer Chamberlain right next to me right now.
Oh God.
And so I'm walking, and I'm like, we're walking next to each other, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to like make it seem like I don't know, like I try not to like make it awkward. So I'm
Playing it
like,
cool.
I'm trying, and
Gotcha.
I'm like, again, I'm like 16 years old. Like, what do I know? So I just literally like look next to, and like, you don't know me. You wouldn't know if I know you or anything, but I just look at you and I say, hey, great show last night, man. And you were like, thanks, man. And we keep walking, and I get to like the sort of intersection to where my room is. And I kind of like peek around. I'm like, I'm just curious where like he's staying. And you literally go into the room right next to us. And so at
Oh,
that point, I
nice.
realized we probably woke you guys up the night
Yeah.
before because we were laughing so loud at this sketch comedy show. But
Well,
anyway, that's my apology. I probably woke you up in the middle of the night after a show because you guys were literally staying in the hotel room right next to us.
you know, I guess yeah, you owe me dinner and a drink next time
I mean,
we see each other, and then we'll
Let's make
call
it
it even
happen.
whenever
after
that
that.
happens, I would be glad to
We'll
because
we'll call it
I
even
feel
after that.
so bad about it.
Dude, I don't even recall that festival or anything from 2012 is
I think it was
probably around.
after Aaron had left. I think Daniel was
Yeah,
playing
Daniel
drums at that
Daniel
point.
came
Daniel's
Daniel
in the
came
band.
in 10. Yeah, so those were some pretty weird years of yeah. That was
And I
kind of like
think it
the
was like a
beginning of the
year before you guys had like initially broke up. So it was kind of in
yeah,
that
so
like in between
the
phase
tail
there. And
Yeah.
the
but
tail
yeah,
end of when it was probably pretty bad and I was probably pretty bad. So I apologize if I don't remember any of that. So you're
I mean, I
good.
wouldn't have expected you to remember. I just want you to know I apologize for probably waking you up that night,
Hey
even though
man.
you don't remember it.
Yeah, it's all good. We're good.
Well,
glad
we're
glad
glad
we
that
made
you're a
amends.
gracious host or gracious
Yeah.
guest. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Slow Tide. Super, super stoked about all the stuff that's going to be coming out of Slow Tide. Can you talk a little bit about how like this whole project started? You know, obviously lots of people know you from Under Oath, but you did
Right.
do Sleepwave almost a decade ago now, and so that was a little bit of like a kind of movement towards this kind of music. But yeah, what was the
Yeah.
impetus for Slow Tide?
I guess it kind of you could. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was gonna totally forget that section of the story. I guess it did kind of start in the sleepwave era. I was talking before we started this interview. I was making the second sleepwave record, and I was doing all the stuff that I wanted to do, recording with the people I wanted to record with, and before sleepwave started to fall, I had just signed to a but he like pushed me out of my And if I saw him now, I would buy him a drink and give him a hug. It's not like that. It's just like he made me do things I wasn't comfortable with, and I think I needed
Sure.
that. And one of the things he made me do is he worked with like some big songwriter dudes, and I'd never really done anything but work for myself. So he would send me on a plane to LA. He put me 10 days at a time. I did this like, and I would have to go work on songs. Some would be for Sleepwave, some would be for other artists, whatever. You know, he was just trying to get me connected to all these people, hoping he could get a number one out of me, be it for Sleepwave or be it for somebody else. And I met a lot of people out there that I still talk to this day, and have worked with some of these people multiple times. And it was actually, um, I was out in LA and I was kind of on a bender, and I was really, oh man, I was so hungover the next day I was going to cancel this session, and me and my buddy were driving in to the studio. And when I got there, the guy was informed that we needed to make some sort of active rock song. And I was just like, dude, fuck that. I don't want to do that at all. I have no interest in doing that. Can we just make something that I want to make today? And so he was like, sure. What do you want to make? So we smoked a joint and listened to music for a while. And it was just like, let's just make like something kind of like chill and surfy, like something that I want to like listen to in my car or listen to when I'm like skating, or something that I enjoy that's not heavy at all. And we did this song in a day. And it was called Paranoid, no pun intended, but it was with my friend Nick Bailey, who I still talk to, who's a fantastic songwriter now and works with lots of people. But me and him worked on the song. It didn't make my record or anything, but it inspired my record because I did something that I wanted to do that was way out of left field for what people know me of. Like it was like I've been in bands my whole music my whole life. Most people, and I've even worked on songs that have come out that you don't even know I've worked on. But like this particular moment was like for someone else. This was for me, and I made a song, and I was like, I love this. This is the vibe. Like I wish I could do that. It's like the grass is always greener though. Like it's like you're
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
around listening to like, like you're listening to Portugal the Man on tour with Alice in Chains. You're like, man, I wish I could do that. But like the grass is always greener. Like maybe some of those dudes wish they were doing this. But it was one of those situations where I made this like kind of like surfy, lo-fi, chill pop song, and it just kind of put it in my back pocket. So fast forward a couple years, Underoath gets back together. We're working, and I keep thinking I'm going to keep working on music. Like Underoath made this kind of this agreement, and we work on Underoath stuff when we're together, as opposed to everyone writing songs alone and like Underoathing it when we get together, because those never really work the way we want them to. Like everyone in Underoath's capable of making their own songs. What the magic really is with Underoath is being in a room together and finding the
Yeah.
really thin middle ground because everyone wants to do it their own way. And it's like,
Right.
there's a million ways to get to the finish line. If it's over there, or if it's over there, or if it's right here, it doesn't matter if you do this to get there. But like to find the line that we all can fit on and be like, I like all of this. It's very thin. So we made that decision. So it made me like, oh man, I got all this time to kill, and like I got all this music I want to write. So I started to kind of like write a little bit, and kind of mess around. And I did. I went back out to LA, and I was actually in the studio with the guys from Sir Sly, and we just sat down one day and like wrote a song. And that song is actually on my record. It's out right now. It's called Too Much Weight. That was just like the first time we all sat in a room together, and I had showed them some of the demos. None of those demos have really made it, but that song did make it to the end. So at this point, I had like 5 or 6 songs like shifting in this direction of like I can actually do this in the way that I think I won't get crucified for. But even if I did get crucified by my fans, I like it so much it doesn't matter. Like I'm doing it because it's fun. I don't need to do this. I want to do this. And that was a
Mm.
huge thing that like kind of set in the back of my mind is like, I don't need to, like Underoath had just come back and done a really successful, reunion tours. And then we put out that Erase Me record and those tours were bigger than the reunion tour stuff. And I was like, I don't need to do this. And then I was kind of taking my time with it and like literally 2 weeks after getting home from LA, the world shuts down.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sitting in my house all the time. I was like, I'm gonna make a record. I'm gonna make this record. That's what I thought. I was like, fuck it, and like it was an eye-opening thing because at one point I thought, if I'm a songwriter, musician, frontman, whatever you want to call me, and that's my job, this is what I do for a living. And Underoath has gotten to the point where like less is more, because if we show up too much, like it hurts ticket sales. Like you've got to be really careful. Too much music's a bad thing. Too much shows is a bad thing. Too little is also equally as bad. So it's like you're walking a tightrope there. So I was having a conversation with my older brother, and he was just like, talking about like, do we invest in real estate? Do we open a bar or a restaurant? And he's like, dude, you're a songwriter. That's what you should focus more on that. And I was like, you're right. I should just do more of that. So I started reaching out to people and working on their songs. Like I did a lot of stuff for EDM artists over COVID for some reason. I don't know why, but they like a lot of top lining, and so I did a lot of that. And in the meantime, I was writing my record. And towards the tail end of COVID, I guess after COVID, Underoath made our record Voyeurist, which is out. And then I went and I had the record done. I had like 13 songs, and I went to my buddy Micah. He was in that band There for Tomorrow. He's a killer producer, and he's a great, great human. And I just called him because I was like, hey, I got a Dropbox. Whenever you get around to it, if you could listen to it and then block me out like 2 weeks, because I need to make sure that I'm not smoking my own brand here. You know what I mean? Like I did 99% of it during lockdown. Like did I lose my mind? Like, is this good? Like, I feel like I have something here. But I also want you to throw me through the ringer. Like, don't worry about our friendship. Tell me what sucks. And he listened to it and he was like, I love it. Let me know when you can come. So I went down there, and then when we really got our hands dirty, and he was like, why is this part good? And the chorus is great, but the pre-chorus is shit. It seems like you're just trying to get to the chorus. I was like, well, because I am. And, like, he would call me out, and we reworked a couple parts. And then
aren't those like the best friendships, by the way, that like
dude,
when they can just call you out on that kind of shit?
Yeah. Well, that's what, I was like, I need you to produce it. Like, as if just produce the record, because I don't want to do it without someone else touching it, because I just didn't want to, it's like, I don't have anything to prove like that. Like, I don't need to, like, I just wanted it to be great. Like, so we tightened up some parts, we rewrote some parts. And then on the last day, I was like, I'm going to fuck you up right now, but I think we need one more song. And, I was flying out the next day at like 8 a.m, and we worked till 4 a.m. and made that one last song. And it's like the perfect album closer. It's like the most artistic, beautiful thing on the whole record. And I'm so glad that we did that. And yeah, I'm really, really stoked on the album. I was a little annoyed about how it's rolling out so slowly, but I understand it's a different era. You can't just put out music and go on tour. No one will go. So you kind of have to build your following online and do all that, which has never been my strong suit. So I've kind of been moving at a very slow pace as we're working on like rolling out live shows for next year, and when we're going to drop the really big single and really make a big push, and around the time that I'll be playing shows, which is kind of, it's shifted a lot because I also have to worry about Underoath schedule and certain things in my life, so we've kind of been like moving the needle a little bit, but I'm really excited about it. But I've also album 1 isn't even out and I'm already writing album 2. So it's like,
You're totally in a creative space then, clearly.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's with a lot of time off, I guess that's what, Under Oath is like we're busy like a third of the year. It leaves a lot of time, maybe a quarter of the year. It depends on the year, I guess, but there's a lot of time to write and be creative. That doesn't mean that everything you write is good either. I like to just kind of have enough going into this next album because I have a feeling it's going to sneak up on me too. Like when Slow Tide starts touring and Under Oath is touring, I'm gonna blank and be like, shit, I need that album now. Like because that could really, doing two things, it could really you could catch up to you. So I think that um, I'm doing the right now, which is just writing. That's all I can really do.
Sure.
You know.
How do you get yourself into that headspace of working it inside different genres? Because this is obviously way different than what you do in Under Oath, but you've also done a whole lot of stuff for other people along the
Yeah.
way. How do you get yourself inside that headspace, writing in that kind of that brainwave?
Um, I'm a music fan.
Oh yeah,
I think that's the main thing. I think if I lose that, that's when I'll probably stop. I'm a fan. Like I love bands. Like I'm like mega fans of tons of different bands, and I love going to shows when I'm not on tour. Like if friends, even if it's not a friend roll, like if a friend's rolling through, I'm definitely going to be there with all if at all possible. And then like even bands that I'm not friends with that I'm a fan of, I'm gonna go. Like
yeah,
I love music. I love live music. Um, and I listen to like everything. So I think getting in the headspace isn't necessarily hard. Um, my manager said something to me one time about Slow Tide that really stuck with me. And he's not really a songs guy. Like he's a great manager, but he's not really like songs aren't his strong suit. But he said something to me that stuck in my brain when I was starting to show him this stuff in the early stages. Um, and the lyric content was a little more on the Under Oath line of things. He goes, think about how different the music is. He's like, I know you as a person. You're not just all dark, you know, everything I write about in Under Oath. He's like, you got a lot of other stuff on your brain. We've had a lot of conversations about other things. Is that a mosquito
Oh,
in
did you get
here?
it?
Damn it. Yeah, I think so. Um,
Nice.
and he was like, you got a lot more up there than just like the dark depressive side. Not saying to ignore it in this project, but try to think about that when you're writing your lyrics. Try to tap into another side of your brain, and that was huge. That really stuck with me. That really and I carried that over into Slow Tide, and you'll see that when the record comes out. And like songs like Lay Low, like I would never come at anything in that kind of element. Um, so yeah, it is what it is.
sure.
You mentioned a little bit ago that it seemed like at some point in your music career, before like Slow Tide, there was this like movement or trajectory where more and more people were having input on the music. And maybe that was a part of Under Oath, maybe that was part of like different projects that you were part of. But it seemed like more and more people were like a part of having input on like your music. Whereas Slow Tide, it really seems like that's very much more concentrated where it's just like you and maybe like another person. Um and I think that's like a really interesting dynamic that it's just a part of like being an artist, especially an artist that like ends up getting some sort of notoriety where you now all of a sudden you're having to deal with producers and you're having to deal with like music executives that like have all these people having input. And I'm really curious like for you and your relationship with Slow Tide's music, how the fact that like it really is just you ultimately having those decisions or maybe like one or two other people really having decisions about the music like how that has like shaped it. Like I know Under Oath has pride itself on the fact that so few people have had impact on Under Oath's music despite the fact that you guys go like number 2 on the Billboard, and that's super rare for an artist to go that high on a music chart and have like so few of people that are in the decision making process, but I would imagine that's even more concentrated with a project like Slow Tide, right? So like what's your relationship with that part of Slow Tide that I would imagine it's got to be really freeing, right?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it was really just me doing what I wanted to do, and I don't mind collaborating. I have nothing against. You know, I think there's something about collaboration that gets mixed up with the artist, with the listener, with uh, some of the writers that do this kind of stuff. It's like there's some people that use it to their advantage in the way of where they want someone to do something for them. And then a listener might see something where there's other names on this song that aren't the band, and maybe that's because they can't do it or they need the help, or so some artists do that. And I think any you get to be in a room with somebody isn't in your band or isn't you is an opportunity for you to learn something, right? Like, I don't care if you're 5 years younger than me or 5 years older than me. It doesn't matter how many records you put out or how many I put. Everyone anyone you could open your brain and absorb what they do and see if it's something that could benefit how you do things, just the same way they should to you. So I think collaborating, there's a couple songs on the record, like the Sir Sly song is complete collaboration between four guys that aren't in a band. They were in a band together, but I was at the first time I was a stranger. But like I just walked into the room and just plugged in the guitar and looked around. We just started talking and we just started jamming. And I learned. They probably learned stuff from me, and that a healthy collaboration. I went to a room who thought his job was to do everything and wouldn't let us do anything, and we fired. That's not because and that's not what I'm working with someone. It's not because I can't do what I want to do. It's because I want to collaborate. I want another brain on it. I want someone else to test me, like we were talking about earlier. Is like, what if there is no one in the room to tell you that part, the song is great, but this part, that, like, what is that? Like, and you go, man, you're right. Maybe I should think about this. I think there's something healthy about that. There's no badge if it's like, oh, I did everything with a solo record. Like, yes, I played every instrument, even some. Well, I got a drummer to play. I didn't even play some drums. Want to do that as a badge? It's just what I was doing because I wrote most of it during COVID.
Yeah.
I went to a studio and re-recorded. I was like, drummer friends. So what's the point to put the badge on to say, oh, I did everything? And I was like, no, I'll call Aaron. I'll call Chris. I'll call my friend Hayden. I was like, I'll play 2 or 3 songs for, and they're great drummers. To go back to the original question of how freeing it is, it's extremely freeing to not have. I had no label influence, no businessman influence on the music. I had no one telling me we need a single, we need this, we need. I just of what I was creating, which was I haven't been able to do that. I don't think since I was.
Yeah.
So that's
And
sure.
like and how
Once
is
you have
that
an
for
album
you
out,
to like be able to or I was just gonna say, how is that for you to like create art where you're able to do it completely out of like your love for the creativity of it, like whatever you're creating? How is that for you, um, given like some of the like how much creativity is like such an important part of like you just being a healthy Spencer? Like, what was that like for you in
yeah,
terms of just like your mental health and all those things? Because you were able to like create something that was truly what you wanted to create.
it made me extremely happy. It was very, like I said, freeing and
Mm.
very rewarding just to listen to it back because I wanted to do it. Um, and by pressure, I don't mean like Underoath makes make, but there's still a pressure there because I think once you release anything under a name. There's always an expectation now. Like even when I do the next same thing I did and do it all by myself and then go to my same friend's house and just reco, there's still pressure because there's expectation because now you have fans. They're expecting something from you, whether they get it or not. They've listened, they've heard of what you are. And there's always some sort of pressure there, unless it's like a debut. But even with Sleepwave, there was pressure there because there was a team involved before I recorded. And this was the other way around. Like I was done with something before anyone kind of heard it, which was really cool. Because then the people that are getting involved is because they want to be involved. They're not trying to and with Sleepwave, there was a lot of we're gonna take the guy from Underoath and we're gonna put him on the radio and give him a number one song and try this, that, and the other. And we kind of kicked and screamed our whole way through it, not allowing it because we weren't there. We didn't know how to let go of that like complete art approach and have torn with like the way there, or do I like throw a curveball? So I think.
Yeah.
But there was a team involved. There was a huge team. Sleepwave was on Epitaph, and it had Raw Power Management, who did Bring Me the Horizon, and there was some other big bands that were on there. They had a lot of weight. They wanted things to be a certain way, and I don't think it was malicious. I think they were obviously they believed in it and wanted it to be the best it could be. But I think when you're trying to create under those circumstances and it was such a weird turning point in my life. I didn't know what I wanted. I was making that album. So to compare it to Slow Tide, it's a completely different ball game. Yeah.
Yes. Well, speaking of doing what you want to do, first of all, I got to say, I always knew you could sing well. I didn't know that your cleans could be so damn good though. The songs you've put out so far with Slow Tide are incredibly clean, beautiful vocals, and they're a great vibe. I'm curious why.
It's a different approach.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a different approach. I mean, in bands my whole I knew how to sing before I knew how to scream. I knew how to play guitar before I knew how to do either. I've been in and out of vocal lessons since I was a little kid, and it's just different with that kind of vibe music. I can do more what I want, vocally. It doesn't really call for anything aggressive.
Yeah, and there's no need for it.
That's what keeps it. It allows me to just be a singer in it. I think with I'm a vocalist because there's all these different hats to wear. It's like you're yelling, you're screaming, singing, aggressive, and it kind of has to be tender moments here, but like slow. It's blanket for vocals. It's very perform to I'm excited. It's all about being a growth, an entertainer, and it's an to it. Not saying that Slow Tide. It's more about performing that, perfect. And I think that's a whole different.
For sure. I've also noticed that music, at least recently, maybe this is just me. Music feels like it's moving more into like a vibey feel instead of so much hooks, instead of so much aggression and all that stuff. A lot of really great music recently does not have a lot of that stuff. It's not like trying to be the catchiest thing on earth. It's trying to present more of a vibe that makes you feel something in the moment, or maybe more like in the background where it kind of influences how you navigate life, right? Was that an intention with Slow Tide? Because I kind of get that sense that it feels like it's it's just trying to be a partner to life.
Yeah, was like, I do this without what is it that because I can't
Yeah.
sit around and worry about what everyone wants to hear and what's popular and what's going to pay the bills, what's going to keep the lights on. Like if I do that, I'm going to go crazy, right? So I go, the only thing that I know the only thing I know that works is really works. People connect with it. They don't know why they connect with a certain band more in from my research and experience, it's what's happening. People really, and so the only way to achieve that in my mind is like, well, when I hear something heavy, what is it that I want to hear? Like, what do I want to hear? And then I go for that. And when I was doing the slow tide thing, it's like everything outside of that world, I'm around heavy music all the time. Like I don't really listen to it that much because I'm around it so much. I'm like, what do I want to hear when I'm driving my car? And if I felt
Yeah.
like someone else has done exactly what my brain wants to hear, then maybe I shouldn't be making anything at all. So I just tried to make like, okay, if I were to picture myself driving in a car down like a road at night, what is that? What am I hearing there? And that's the kind of vibe I kind of, and then I was like, when I'm like on a walk, I skate down the road or whatever it is, and kind of go for that, and that's where it's got, I guess, more of like a vibey feel, is I was just trying to like, this is just like what I want to listen to. And that's kind of where I
Yeah.
started. And where I finished is like, when I listen back to it, it's like, is this what I want to hear? Because this is what I want to listen to. It's not like, oh, is that a hit? Is that a smash? Is that a hook? I was like, I kind of don't fucking care. Like I'm kind of just like, I don't know. I just, and I'm not the end all be all either. I'm just like, if I don't want to hear it, then I'm doing a disservice to listeners, because then I'm
Yeah.
selling you something fake. Because if
Mhm.
I can get behind it and be like, I love this, I dig this, odds are someone else probably will. Um, I'm still here 20 years later. Like we've done enough. I've done enough in my career to know that like when we do the right thing, people care, and the right thing is never us trying to do the right thing. It's us trying to appease our brains and what we want to hear and make something creative. So when I was doing the slow tide thing, I was like, yeah, I just want to make something that I could listen to like on the daily basis if it wasn't me. And that's what I went for. And
Mhm.
I think I made that album. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the slow tide stuff is very like electronic forward, and one of the things I'm like curious about is you've obviously over the last 20 plus years have worked with this guy named Chris Dudley, who has
Yeah.
been like such a mastermind around electronic stuff. And I don't know, like maybe he's had influence on like slow tide stuff or not, but I'm really curious like how much of your relationship with Chris over these last 20 years has like influenced at least some of the sounds,
I,
the electronic sounds that we hear in slow tide.
yeah. Chris is, I hit him up for nerdy questions a lot. I ask him about different plugins a lot, but I didn't, I think about it now. I was like, I should have collaborated with Chris at some point, but I just didn't, because I just wanted to keep it so separate from Underoath. Although Aaron did play on a song or two, he played the drums on a song or two, but I sent him the song done and just like, here's the fake drums, play your drums.
Mm.
Like we didn't get in a room and
Sure.
jam with it, and it wasn't because like of anything other than like I just wanted to do something different and separate. But Chris is yeah, he is fantastic at what he does, and he's a very uh gifted in the electronic world. But he also does something so different from what the slow tide stuff is. Like he's making like soundtrack scores, soundscapes. And what I did was I was like, I want to make like alternative pop or
Yeah.
something. I don't know what you call it. So I was like, it's just me playing keyboards, and just kind of fucking around until I liked it. I play piano enough, and guitar is obviously my main thing. So I can get by on, I play keyboards live sometimes with Underoath, and we did that Erase Me tour. I played piano on a song live, but like I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to do is like find a sound that I like and make those chords, against what I'm doing on the guitar or the bass to make a moment. So I did enjoy that a lot with the Slow Tide stuff. But yeah, Chris definitely helped me with some plugins. I was like, hey, I need like new things. Like, can you tell me what to do? So
At this
yeah.
point in your life, is there anything that makes you nervous? Musically, especially, but maybe not musically.
I get the butterflies before pretty much every show still.
That's so cool to me.
It's always the beginning of the tour is always tougher than as you get to the end that they're not as bad because you've been doing it every night, but I still get butterflies on every tour and pretty much for every show. It's like that adrenaline and that like
It's
thing.
go time. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever want to lose that. So that makes me nervous. Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, that's especially incredible given the fact that, like, I mean, you're talking about before, like, you played at Wembley and you've played like these massive, massive tours in front of like more fans that you probably could have ever dreamed of when you were
Oh,
18
totally.
years old,
Totally.
thinking about
Yeah.
maybe doing music, like, and to think that like when you were 18 dreaming about like maybe doing music whatever, and to now know like you still are nervous when you play in front of thousands upon thousands of fans,
Well,
like that's got to be something that's pretty precious.
yeah, it's going out there. Once you're out there, you're not nervous, but it's like, I don't know, it's like dropping in on a half pipe. Like, I don't think that little butterfly doesn't ever go away, no matter how long you've been skating. Or like, I don't know, like every time you get on an airplane, don't you get a little, like before takeoff, you get a little like your stomach feels a little something, like, because something can always happen. Something can always
Yeah.
go wrong.
I always got to ask the
But
person next to me if they're scared if the plane's going to go down, just so that they
right.
think about it. Are you ready to move into the top 5 most influential albums of Spencer Chamberlain?
Oh, yes, but I don't even know where to start. Okay, top 5.
We'll help you along. If you need a moment, we can give you a moment too.
Does it need to be like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or could it just be
No,
5
no. Put it
albums?
in, put it
Okay,
in
so I
Just
don't.
five,
whatever
yeah.
order you want.
Yeah, it could be
Just
chronological
remember,
too if you wanted.
they're the
All
albums
right,
that mean
so
they're the albums that mean the most to you. Things that the albums that have changed your life.
okay, so we're gonna start with Led Zeppelin 1 or 2
Yes,
because
sir.
all of the Led Zeppelin catalog, that was my father, right? So
Yeah.
we weren't even old enough to get our own music, but it was very taught in our family, along with like the Rolling Stones and all this other stuff, but in the Beatles. But the Beatles didn't like really scratch my itch as like a baby the way that Led Zeppelin did.
Mm.
Just I was like, ooh, what's that? I was like really little. So I would have to say Led Zeppelin in there.
That
Um,
aggression and that sexual energy that comes from Led Zeppelin is just it's unbeatable, right?
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
also I would have to say, um, hmm, I would have to say Pink Floyd, Dark Side,
Hey,
because
look right here.
that that was the yeah, that was the I couldn't wrap my brain around what that was. And
Yeah.
it's hit me so many times through life too, like going back to it, like, because for us it's like, oh, bands did that was, but think about being the first, like the
Yeah.
pioneer of that. It's so psychedelic and off the wall, and I know a lot of drugs were involved, but like, no, nothing was like that, and
Yeah.
still to this day nothing is really like that, to where, could you imagine creating that in the 60s, in the 70s? Like, it is, I still think about that. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that is so creative and out of this world. And there's so much vibe. Like, we were talking about vibes earlier. Like, man, it's like that really showed me like that artistic, not just the aggressive. You know, like Led Zeppelin had this angst, and I was a kid, I was a baby, and it was just cool. And then Pink Floyd, I was like, oh my God, is that what drugs feel like? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. The way that they use that space. I mean, they have a full song that literally is just gibberish, but it is one of the most beautiful songs ever written. And man, yeah. You like when you say that vibe, and then of course the incredible groove section. Man, just
Yeah.
absolutely
So
fascinating.
from there, I would have to go to Nirvana, Nevermind.
Hell yeah.
Nirvana was the first thing that I got into, like me and my brother. The whole grunge era. Obviously, Nirvana opened the door for me to get into Soundgarden, which is equally as important, Alice in Chains, and even early Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. All those albums, I could put all of them on there, but if I'm going to go from one from that era, I mean, honestly, I was a baby still. So Nirvana is what opened the door because they hit more of a mainstream thing. And that was me going from Led Zeppelin child wanting to be a guitar player to seeing Kurt Cobain and going, that's what I want to do. And I was like, I'm going to sing and play guitar. I'm going to learn that's what I'm going to do. Like, cause when I was listening to Led Zeppelin, I wanted to be the lead guitar player. I wanted to learn how to play like that. And all I cared about was guitar. And then Nirvana opened the door of like songwriting of like, oh my God, there's 3 guys up there and they're just literally changing the world. And that I would say Nirvana, Nevermind, even though I think I like In Utero potentially better depending on the day of the week, but you know, I think it was Nevermind that changed my life.
Yeah.
So now we got 3. I need 2 more. Oh.
They could be an Underoath album too if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
No.
Everyone's so bashful to say it. I'm waiting for the person who does do it.
So I want to say this sounds funny because I'm trying to think if it was Korn. Oh, wait. Let me back up a little bit. Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory, before we get there. Because the Brit rock thing, which opened the door for like Radiohead and Coldplay, and maybe Radiohead needs to be on the list.
Ooh, I think it might be.
Yeah,
I think it might be doing that.
I think it needs to be because Oasis opened the door for Brit rock, which Coldplay was super important to me. But Oasis, Liam still to this day, this is not a joke. I've got so much stuff around my house. This is just the first thing I could find close enough to reach. Is that there's something about him and his voice and the songwriting. It was a songwriting thing for me. It was him. I just loved his attitude and the way he sang, even though his brother is technically better or whatever, classically speaking. I loved Liam. I connected with Liam. I love everything I've read about. Like it was like rock and roll. That was our Beatles, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was like, we didn't get to live through the Beatles, but we got Oasis and we got, you know, all the shit that came with them, and I still listen to them all the time. And then I'm gonna go with OK Computer, even though I probably like Hail to the Thief and In Rainbows better. But OK Computer was the first one I really got into. Obviously, I listened to the bands, but it didn't really like wow my brain until OK Computer. I think would have to be number 5 for me, and that
Great
was
picks.
My first tattoo was stuff from OK Computer.
Love that.
That's brilliant.
Actually, Radiohead is one of those bands where I make a differentiation between best album, favorite album, and most influential. And I think Radiohead has
Right.
an album that fits each one of those. That's a
I
different
agree.
album from each. For me personally, I think their most influential is OK Computer. I think their best album is actually Kid A, and I think my favorite album though is In Rainbows. And actually, I think Underoath is one of those bands too that kind of fits those categories, at least for me personally. Like I
Yeah.
think of Define the Great Line, probably the most influential. I think my favorite is probably Chasing Safety, and then I think Lost in Sound and Separation is your best album. So I
Oh,
think
cool.
and
Yeah.
so like those different categories I think are a little different for each, and I think Radiohead is one of those bands that kind of fits those categories kind of cleanly, at least for me as a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Same. Same.
I think it's good. You know, that being said, we've had a lot of guests on here, and I think Mason, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Define the Great Line is probably the most cited, most influential album of all of our guests.
I
I
mean,
think it's far and
it's
away.
definitely up there. I mean, certainly like maybe a Jimmy Eat World album might be up there
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
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 but certainly Define the Great Line is at least in the top 3 of most cited albums that from the bands that we've interviewed.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's
So,
great.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it certainly
impressive.
is for me. Like if I were to do this list right now for you, Spencer, Define the Great Line would certainly be in that top 5.
Hell yeah. Appreciate that. Hell
For
yeah.
sure.
So, love it. Spencer, what do you want to plug? Obviously, Slow Tide stuff is coming out. There's already been a few singles out, but yeah, what do you want to plug?
Yeah. There's, I'm going to be dropping a new single, depending on when this comes out. I don't know. And there will be the full album in 24 and shows and all sorts of things. So follow it's Slow Tide without the W for anyone who's listening or watching, or I don't know how this goes, but
Both.
Yeah.
yeah, it's SLOTIDE. You can follow it at Slow Tide Band on all the socials. I don't know why I did Slow Tide Band because it's just me. There will be a band live, but it's probably because it's Underoath Band on everything, and I wasn't thinking when I grabbed the handles online. And then I kind of look at it now. I was like, huh, it's definitely just me. But yeah, I'm putting together the live band now. We're routing a few shows for next year, so keep your eyes open and your ears open. Sharing it is everything. I've started this thing from like the ground up and literally had no followers and no Spotify listeners and all that. And we're doing pretty good for a band that's not played live yet. So I think the more word of mouth, though, every time you share it, like it really does help. Especially bands in the early phases like this. Like I try to stay on that Instagram once a day. Like if people are posting or commenting or sharing, if you're getting a message back, it's me. I'm very hands on with it. I know that without the people that have been a part of it from this early stage, like these are the people. This is my Slow Tide VFW hall. Like Underoath started off in VFW halls, and I remember those kids, like the kids that would take us out to dinner and would hang out by the van, and they're still coming to shows now. Like you don't get to do that anymore. Like you don't just get to tour and you hope you get noticed like you did in the early 2000s. Like the
Yeah.
internet is now your VFW hall. So everyone's sharing my music right now and listening right now and following. Y'all are my VFW, man, and I
Oh
won't
yeah.
forget those people. So
Love that.
props to everyone who's repping it right now. It's really dope.
Love that.
Love
Hey,
it.
can I give you one last note of gratitude? My
Sure.
biggest pet peeve as a music aficionado, a music fan, is when people who go solo just use their name. That's my biggest
Yeah,
pet peeve. And you did not do it. You
couldn't do it.
created a name out of the ether, and
Yeah,
I'm so happy.
I think about I love Tame Impala, and I would wear one of their shirts, but would I wear a shirt that just said Kevin Parker on it?
Definitely not.
I probably wouldn't. So I think about that a lot. Like when I was, because I did get suggested that because my name would carry more of a weight than Slow Tide, but I was like, I just can't. I wouldn't wear a shirt with my name on it. Like what the, you know? I don't
I
know.
mean, hey,
Yeah.
Aaron Gillespie did it for like an album or two, so you can talk
Yeah.
shit to him if you
I
want.
was
I
just gonna talk shit about him for that.
yeah. I mean, it's just not. And to each their own. That just
Yeah.
wasn't my. I just couldn't do it.
Proud of you. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Spencer, anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah. So you know, I've been working very closely with Disney. Actually,
Really?
Ooh,
they're finally releasing Frozen 3, which has
no
been something
way.
people have been asking it. Yeah, it's in the works, and I'm writing all the music for it. So that's how I know about Frozen 3, and I'm probably not even allowed to tell anyone about it because
Well,
it's Disney. So
you heard it here first, folks. You know,
yeah,
you keep dyeing your hair blonde, you might end up looking like Elsa here sometime soon.
yeah. I mean, hopefully, I get to sing all of her parts because I do have a very feminine voice. So we'll see.
I
We'll
need to
see.
hear that. And then when she
Yeah,
gets angry, you can turn into
There
Underoath
you go.
Spencer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm keeping all the aggressive music out of it, but I am working hands on with Frozen 3 right now. So
Wow. I mean, obviously you've got a big audience among like 35-year-olds, but to get into that 5-year-old market, that's next level.
well,
Yeah.
I'm going for all their kids.
Yeah, you're going
Like
for the Wiggles kind of
they're
money.
yeah, they're all a lot of my fans have babies now, so we're gonna
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
gonna try to tap
you're
into
gonna create a whole monopoly of like
yeah
emo kids, right? Or like people
yeah
who
we're
grew up
gonna
in emo,
get
because
them
not only are
young,
they
get the
only gonna be
parents.
listening to Underoath and Slow Tide, but also they're gonna be listening. All their kids are gonna be listening to Elsa and Frozen. Like
There you
it's
go.
just gonna be a Spencer Chamberlain monopoly in a
Cradle to
Yep,
lot
the
of emo
grave.
kids' households.
that's right. I'm going for it.
I love it. Well, congratulations on Frozen. I would imagine at this point, you know, there's 6
Yeah,
members of Underoath, but that's gonna bring in some money.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I just maybe got fired by telling you guys, so we'll see. Only time will
well,
tell.
I can assure
We'll
you,
blank
not
out the
enough people
names.
listen to us where it's gonna matter.
Yeah. Cool.
Love it. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for chatting a little bit about Slow Tide. We're really excited for all the new stuff that's going to be coming out of that project, and
Yeah.
certainly I'm really excited to see whatever shows you guys end up announcing. Hopefully, it's somewhere near where I live, and I'd love to see you guys sometime soon. So yeah, thanks so much for chatting more about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much.